anyway, the ranchers all really, they thought that that these young boys were doing this. They were buzzing windmills too at times, and they thought they were doing some of it just on their own, just to be funny. And they made a protest, and there was, I can't remember that man's name for sure. Anyway, the general, and he came in from El Paso, and he told them that it was not his boys that was doing that. It was a group that was assigned to experiment with the weather. And he gave us the address and what to ask for, and we got these bulletins, this one that I'm talking about. And anybody that asked for one after that didn't get it. They shut it off. But I still got it.
Tell us about the experiments.
The experiments were going all up and down the Rockies, even into Montana. And there was a big experiment station right there at the mouth of the Platte River where they had, when they had that big flood on the Platte. 1960. But this one was spotted too. I mean, it was named. We got the first government bulletins from Montoya, Senator Montoya. Anderson was, Senator Anderson was downright insulting. We were just a bunch of hicks that didn't know anything. But they could see some of these planes coming in. They were branding calves or marking lambs or something one time, and a bunch of men around on the Gallo, and this wasn't at our ranch, but all the neighbors got together to do those things. And they could see something being dumped out or spewed out of these planes, and the planes going right, you might say, into the clouds, or they appeared to go into them. The clouds would just vanish. You could just go buy more feed.
You saw this happen?
I didn't see that. My husband was there. But I saw the planes come in. One time we were stuck in that same draw that had that bluff on it I was telling you about. With the anyway, the water had come down. Those magazines are to be given away, and you can have any you want. We were stuck, and there was the biggest old black cloud up above, and we needed rain and needed it bad. And we were just working like crazy to get that. It was my husband and the oldest son and I to get that pickup out of the draw, because it would have washed it away. And the planes come in, and finally somebody noticed them there, and those clouds just absolutely vanished away. This government thing, they said in so many words that they were trying to send the moisture into the areas that needed it for dry land farming, wheat, and so forth.
Makes sense.
I think they nearly got sued. They washed away the Kansas City stockyards once.
Got one.
Which served them right.
Got one connected, man.
I think that's all we really need.
Great.
Done some wonderful work for us.
Well, I hope it's been worth something. I think the American people ought to know what's going on. I can realize one reason that this was kept secretive is, you remember Orson Welles? You're too young.
Well, we read about it in the newspapers.
I do.
Well, anyway, he had written a play,
Right.
and I think it was in New York City, that there was a downright riot.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah. People from the other worlds were coming, and people in New York City just panicked.
as they're well known to do, people in New York
so.
City.
I guess so. Anyway, that's the only reason I can see why they can't be honest.
Of course, now they've had so much practice
Yeah.
at being dishonest.
Yes, and they
Second nature.
have been used to the idea of their superiority and lording it over the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're just the taxpayer.
We're just children that have to be taken care of.
Yeah, we're just the taxpayer that they
Yeah.
can gouge for more money.
So what do you believe crashed out on the Foster Ranch in 1947?
What do I think? Well, for several years I really thought that it might be something the Russians were experimenting with, but I don't think so anymore. I think that perhaps we have the greatest technological advances of anybody in the world. And they haven't found any living people on any other planets, but they got to come from somewhere.
So you believe it was from somewhere else?
Yes, unless we find a group of people in this world that are smarter than we know about, I don't think it's from this world anymore.
Who would make a difference? Well, I think that'll do her then. Thank you very much for your time. I'll make a copy of the tape. I won't promise the quality will be very good.
I'd like to buy two.
I'll make
Oh.
2 copies and send them to you.
It'd be our
You'll,
pleasure.
don't worry about
Yeah.
it's there. It's very simple to do and it doesn't cost
It'd
anything.
be our
So
pleasure.
you get more sort of our payment for
Yes.
you helping us out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Okay. And your name is?
Alice Knight.
You can speak up. It won't hurt. And we're here in Delhart, Texas on October 1st. And you were a niece
Yes,
of Barney Barnett.
of his wife.
And did I understand that they kind of raised you for a while? Or?
I was real close to them. They babysat me, about for 2 or 3 years. And they helped spoil me. And they did not have any children of their own.
So, Barney was a civil engineer for the Soil Conservation Service, working in an office in...
Socorro, New Mexico.
His office was in Socorro?
Yes.
Okay.
He was employed by the U.S. government, you know. Okay. Now,
You remember the story that Barney told?
Well, I remember that he saw, one time we went to visit, and I don't know whether it was before my husband and I married or after, I don't recall the dates, but he said that he saw a UFO fall. He was out working in the field, and I understood that it was out in the St. Augustine plain, and he went over to where it was, and where it fell, and he got nearly to the side, and there was a group of people on a geological or archaeological hunt, and they were over there. I don't remember how many people he said, but they got nearly up to this UFO, but it was close enough that you could see some creatures, or he said they didn't look like human beings out there. And along came a government, or some trucks.
No, with government you mean?
I guess it was government. You know, as I say, it's been a long time ago. But someone came along, and I understood it. I don't know whether it was Army or what. I think he just termed it government trucks, and they told them to go on back and forget they ever saw anything. Now, that's all I recall.
He wasn't specific on whether it was Army or he just said
I don't
government.
recall.
Did he have any clue as to where the archaeologist came from?
He didn't say. If he did, I don't remember. He just said a bunch of young people on a dig.
Did he ever describe the creatures to you?
I don't recall.
He said, did he give you a number? Do you remember if there were? And they were all dead.
So far as, they weren't moving.
Mm-hmm. So he never said that one might have been alive or might have been injured?
No, I don't think he got that close to them. You didn't get right up to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like there was a fence, and they blocked it off.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may have had him move back to the fence, I don't know.
But you don't know exactly where this was, other than you think it was up in the...
I feel that it was up in the Daddle or Magdalena, what he termed as the high country.
The high country. And he didn't give you any clue as to what side of the plains it would have been on, or whether it was closer to Daddle or Magdalena?
No. If he did, I don't recall. And I don't really think he did.
Did he ever describe the object itself to you? Say anything about that?
I don't, since you've heard about all these
Mhm.
others and things,
Mm-hmm.
you don't realize, I don't recall if what he said or what has been put into my mind, or, that I, not that anybody's put anything into my mind.
Well, but you
what you've read and
you've read the books,
talked
you
about,
saw the
and
Unsolved
you've
Mysteries
talked
program.
about, and things that you've talked about. And there's been talk of UFOs ever since.
Mm-hmm. But your memories then are just pretty vague about what he'd said.
That's right. Except that I do know that he said he saw a UFO.
And that there were creatures
In it,
and
or
he saw.
people or whatever.
So,
And I believe he did describe it as a round thing, but as
Mhm.
I say, I don't know what.
do you recall now, in the subsequent years, what his feelings about UFOs were?
No, I don't even recall us talking about it.
What's your feelings about him? What do you think?
Well, since he saw one, I know that it's true.
So you believe, based on what Barney told you,
Yes.
that flying saucers are real and they're piloted by beings from other planets? Is that a fair assessment?
I don't know who they're. I just know that they're real.
Mhm.
Or this, yes.
But you trust anything Barney told you on that?
Yes,
order?
I would.
Was he ever known to play practical jokes or spin tall tales or anything like that?
Oh, I don't know that he'd play practical jokes, but not spin tall tales.
Mm-hmm. So he was very...
But he was serious about
Mhm.
this. This was a serious.
Did it ever come up more than one time that you remember?
I don't recall.
So, and you have really no clue.
I'm sorry.
No,
my
that's
recall is so poor.
That's fine. That's exactly what we want, is exactly what you remember, not what
Somebody
others may have said or things that people
Yeah.
might have said, but what you recall yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have no clue as to when he mentioned this to you, other than it may have been in the 50s?
It was in the middle or latter 40s or early 50s.
Early 50s.
But it'd been real early 50s. I feel like it was before the 50s.
So it might have been 49 or 48. So it might have been right after, close to the time it happened.
Who knows?
Do you remember the context? I'm sure you don't. Remember the context of the conversation, how it came up at all? But it made enough impression upon you that you remembered at least a few of the details. Anything else that you can think of that...
Not a thing.
So you have...
I've tried, to rack my brain
Mhm.
to, it seems ridiculous that we didn't discuss it later, and we may have. But I
Mhm.
don't recall, and we're all busy, and, you
Mhm.
see them maybe a day or two at a time.
Given what you know, what Barney Barnett said to you, what's your feeling of the government claims that there's no such thing, no validity?
Oh, I just don't have too much opinion, except, government. The government.
Do you think the government's hiding information about UFOs from us?
They might.
And this
It
would-
must be. It's obvious if they're the ones who came along and said, be quiet about this.
Mhm. But Barney did mention the archaeologist.
Yeah.
Did he mention anybody else who might have been there?
No, he just said these people want to dig, and